everyone. Welcome to Making It Real. Today on the show, I have a special guest, Deepa Deshnuk. Deepa, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Kiki, for the opportunity and looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And Deepa is a registered dietitian. She's a nutrition consultant, and she's really all about providing her clients with practical tools for lifestyle changes that are really going to optimize their health and therefore their life, right? And now, Deepa, you practice functional and integrative nutrition, and you're also a registered dietitian. Can you talk a little bit about what all of those things mean and how you might be perhaps a little bit different than just a dietitian?
Sure. So I'm a registered dietitian and nutritionist, which means that, of course, I'm supposed to talk to people about nutrition, and as the initial difference between dietitian and nutritionist is all the dietitians are nutritionists, but not all the nutritionists are dietitians. As a dietitians, we go through schooling for it's a very rigorous schooling program, and then we have to take the board certification to uh, to pass the board and acquire the credentials. So registered dietitian slash nutritionists are the only credible healthcare professionals. Then going down to functional and integrative nutrition, I focus on more holistic approach to one's health. My it starts with me focusing on their gut health and then taking the patient from that point onwards. So functional and integrative nutrition focuses on literally using food as medicine and correcting the underlying deficiencies. First of all, identifying the deficiencies and correcting them through food and some very simple supplements if needed. But focus is given on making lifestyle changes to their food, their lifestyle habits to achieve health and physical and mental wellness.
And it's so nice to hear that there is more of an integration now with dietitians taking this very holistic approach. Did you feel like you were ever kind of going against the grain or kind of almost going back on your science-based education when you decided to take a more kind of integrative nutrition approach? Or do you feel like that is the mainstream trend now, that there wasn't any kind of discomfort in that shift, if you know what I mean?
Yes. So I started practicing functional and integrative nutrition, focusing on gut health in 2006, 2007, with the message that most of our diet they need to include more plants. And for regardless of your diagnosis, we need to focus on gut health. And people looked at me, the healthcare professionals looked at me as if, what are you talking about? I'm sending you the patient for diabetes and you are treating his gut. How is this possible? Is this some sort of a voodoo medicine?
Yeah.
That you're practicing. And no, how can eating plants are going to be sufficient for to meet their protein needs? Everybody was worried about protein on plant-based diet. So and then I was talking about lentils and turmeric and quinoa and millet in 2007 2008. It sounded
Before it was
like
cool.
it was like a foreign language. And there was a lot of resistance, and but that resistance actually helped me to create simple recipes, simple tools without making people feel intimidated by my message.
Mm.
So, and I didn't want to just turn them to a turmeric supplement.
Mhm.
My focus was to help them learn what turmeric is, how to use it, how to cook with it, and the health benefits of it. But when when the ingredient sounds so foreign to you, you don't know where to start. And that's kind of led me to create recipes and kind of create handouts and my messaging to, or tools you can say, to help people kind of get on board and get on the wagon and stay on the wagon.
And I'm really curious to know, why was it that you were kind of so ahead of the curve? What made you realize, no, you know what, we do need to focus on gut health even before everyone was talking about it? Was there a certain figure in your life, or did you take a certain course that kind of opened your eyes to this whole new world that other people weren't seeing? Just curious.
So what happened, I started practicing right in private practice right after graduating. Within a year or so, I decided to break away from the traditional, hospital role as a dietitian in the hospital and other places, and I said I'm going to do it on my own. And what I started noticing that regardless of the diagnosis, and at that time the most common diagnosis was diabetes and weight loss and cholesterol, or blood pressure. And as I would assess them or start having a just a general conversation with the patient, I started noticing a trend that people were complaining that they are very tired. Okay. And uh, it was around the same time I was invited to speak at a gluten-free expo. It was the first gluten-free expo for the consumer, and I went there and I stood there and talked about health and benefits of beans, lentils, and spices, because that's all I knew. And people, the audience responded to that messaging. They were curious. They are like, oh my God, this has so many health benefits. What do you do with beans? What do you do with lentils? How to cook with them? Where to find them? Where to buy them? Yeah, so on and so forth. And that while I was preparing for the Gluten Free Expo presentation, I happened to read, go back to books and read about digestive health. And then at the same time, I was noticing people were complaining of feeling very tired. And I said, why is everybody so tired when they are eating so much food? And if the traditional messaging that I was supposed to recommend that if you're drinking regular soda, drink diet soda. If you're eating regular butter, eat margarine. If that message is supposed to work, it was not working. So just making those changes was not giving them the energy. Then I started thinking about that they are eating but they are not nourishing themselves. There was a And then I started noticing the way these people their overall physical presentation, dry hair, um, you know arthritis arthritic hands, pain, and it brought back the memories of nutritional deficiencies that we had learned back in India. And now India is a developing country. We have tons of malnutrition because of lack of food. And I said, here we have same deficiencies that we are dealing with. Same thing like Indian patients that we had seen. So that similarity in their symptoms, the physical symptoms, the presentation of their physical appearance triggered me to think that these people were malnourished. They
Wow.
were getting enough calories, but they were malnourished. They were eating, but they were not nourishing. And when I realized that, I said, so where do you get nutrition from? Where does nutrients get absorbed? They get absorbed in gut. That's it. And that's kind of was a beginning, that observation of those images coming back to me of nutritional deficiencies, and
It's
that was it.
that saying, overfed and undernourished, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
And so you mentioned that you're really all about practical tools and making things accessible for your clients. And so can you talk a little bit about how you make things practical, accessible, maybe the tools you use, and how that led you to search for a tool like Meal Garden?
Yes. So, oh God, Meal Garden was God sent. Um, over the years, I have developed a lot of recipes. I have done cooking classes, product. I have developed products, all to make sure that people will it will help people to actually execute what I'm teaching, right? I can sit here and tell them, oh, start eating lentils. But if a person doesn't know what to do with it, and you don't want just lentil soup every day, day in and day night, you want variety, right? So I developed recipes, so on and so forth. Um, and then it was interesting. Last, I would say, since 2010, and since the Google and Pinterest, and as those platform, even in Instagram, as those platform were evolving, I said, who wants a cookbook? Why would people need a recipe? Because all they have to do is Google it, and there are hundreds of recipes on lentils. Why am I wasting my time developing recipes, documenting them, all that stuff? But then every time I see people want recipes, they want structure. I notice that people relapse or stop following the dietary recommendations if they don't have structure, if they don't have a meal plan, if they don't have grocery list ready. So lack of meal planning, I feel, is the number one reason why people have relapse.
Wow.
Okay. And I said, okay, how do I help them with meal planning? And then I was looking for a service or a software to to s- to um, to deliver that, and I looked and looked, because I had a few constraints. First of all, I wanted to be able to bulk transfer my recipes into the new platform, because I had already developed these recipes. I practice plant-based nutrition, but I predominantly whole food plant-based. So I cannot just use any recipe. I have to be very careful about, making sure that it meets the guideline of Plantricious Project, um, which basically the recipes need to be without oil, and the salt and all that needs to be matched. So I was looking for a platform where they would allow me to bulk transfer some of my recipes. And secondly, I was looking for a platform which would allow me to input some of the ethnic ingredients that I use, specific kind of lentils, specific kind of spices, because a lot of my percentage of my clientele is Indian. So there are a lot of recipes I use using very traditional Indian vegetables and ingredients, which is not found in USDA database that most of these meal planning softwares use. And the Meal Garden had both of these things. I cannot speak enough about the support that the founder and the co-founder Jeff and Vlad has provided me in last 2 months, 3 months. I don't know how. Yeah, at least 3 months. And because of the flexibility of the platform, the uh, ease of use, I'm able to create meal plans, recipe collections, packages, which are being deployed to my patients, to my clients, and they find it extremely useful.
Oh, that's
So
so great to hear. Thank you, Deepa. And you know what? It must be so rewarding to see all of your, as you puzzle piece things together, how that then
Yes.
is able to really transform, your clients' lives. And I'm sure you have so many different success stories. So hate to put you on the spot, but is there one time in your career that really pops to mind, or one client where you're like, oh my goodness, this is why I'm doing this work, and that just makes you feel so nourished and full. And is there any experience that comes to mind, or any particular transformation or turnaround that you've witnessed with a client thanks to you making these tools so accessible?
Oh boy, there are so many. Just this morning I got an email from this gentleman, and he said, Deepa, I don't know if you remember me, but 2 years ago you helped me get my diabetes under control, so on and so forth. But I'm just seeing, um, it seems my blood sugars have started going up. I believe I have insulin resistance now. Can you help? And I saw him in, I believe, 2016, 17. So just to get an email like that out of nowhere, and
Yeah.
knowing that this person was able to make the change and was able to sustain
Yeah.
that lifestyle at least for 3 years is very rewarding. A lot of patients whose digestive health has improved.
Mm.
We see a lot of patients with colitis and IBS, all those things. I mean, there are so many success stories, and that is all possible because I give them these practical tools, the recipes that they need, the ingredient list that they need. Because the meal garden allows you to print the grocery list,
Mhm.
right? And it has those tiny little, very practical features,
Mhm.
which just helps me educate the patient even more.
Mhm.
So it's no, I mean, there's so I have a patient, and she came with tons of chronic health conditions, and she said, I've never ever been able to stick to the diet. And I said, based on everything you are saying, I can give you two approaches. One is, just changing one thing at a time, or you can go on whole food plant-based diet and just a complete turnaround, and you want to do that. And she said, yes, I want to try that. And because I was able to give her the meal plan and the entire package that I was able to create in Meal Garden, she was able to make the change. And she went cold turkey to whole food plant based, and then later on she told me that, Deepa, do you know what my background is? And I said, no. She said, my family is a butcher family. They are the butchers. So
Quite the turnaround.
quite the turnaround.
Oh, I
Exactly.
love it. Drastic changes, drastic
What a
180.
drastic change, but that was possible because um, just telling her to change her diet is one thing, but giving her the tools to make that change and providing her with the recipes and the the cravings that she was having, and this. So it just, I mean, there's just so many.
No, that's a
I
that's
mean,
a
I exist because of my patients. That's how I look at it. They
wow.
do all the hard work. I'm just a messenger here,
It's beautiful.
because
Just
they
a
do
portal, a channel for all the goodness. And
the.
before we wrap up and we share where people can learn more about you and your offerings, I just want to end with one fun question. And the question is, what is your go-to absolute favorite recipe for gut health in particular, that has a nice, it's pro gut health? I know that there's no one recipe that's going to fix your gut, but what's
Yeah.
one that you love?
So the number one nutrient for gut health is um, beta carotene vitamin A. Okay, because gut health is usually due to inflammation, and what helps reduce inflammation is vegetables and mainly vegetables and some fruits like papaya, but vegetables like butternut squash and pumpkin and carrots, because these are rich in vitamin A, beta carotene. And when they are cooked, they are easy to digest and they help heal the lining of the gut. That's what this is all about. So my favorite recipe for gut health is a butternut squash soup with with just it's a very simple recipe. You cook down the butternut squash with some vegetable broth, and then you add a dash of curry powder, or if you can't tolerate spice in the beginning, then just tiny pinch of rosemary or garlic or black pepper, and also add or grind that whole mix with couple tablespoons of pumpkin seeds to add a little bit of extra fat to absorb the vitamin A. And I think that's a magic potion
Oh,
for
yeah,
gut
and
health.
such
So
a comforting meal, especially now in the winter. So yeah, I'm
correct.
happy that you shared that. And
And
so,
it's easy, and it's easy, and it's very healing for the gut, and
and
it's
not
easy to tolerate.
expensive. It's so accessible. Now, Deepa, you are clearly a master of gut health, of really transforming, whether it be the small changes or the drastic ones. Where can people learn more about you and your offerings and follow you on social media and all that jazz?
So basically, if they follow me on Facebook, Nutrition is Deepa, or they can go to the Nutrition is Deepa website. Same thing on Instagram and YouTube. And for my practice, they can just visit the website dupagedietitians.com, and or if they just Google Nutrition is Deepa, they will find me. There aren't too
Oh,
many.
you own it. Love it. Great SEO. And I'll put all of those links in the show notes for those either watching or listening. And just thank you so much for your time. It was
Oh
such
my
a
gosh,
pleasure.
thank you as well. Thank you as well. And then one thing I forgot to mention, they can listen to the podcast Ask Nutritionist Deepa and send their questions to me, because I usually answer my patients' questions on this podcast.
Amazing. Thank you again, Deepa.
Thank you. Bye-bye.